Hi, welcome to the Milk Making Minutes. I'm your host, Lo, and I will be releasing a new episode later this week. But today I thought I'd do something fun and celebrate fathers. Yesterday I was busy celebrating the fathers in my life, so I'm a little late on this episode. But I thought I'd do something fun and share both some clips from previously released episodes and some brand new audio that hasn't been heard before, including a little interview I conducted with my own dad and a song that I had made for him. And I'll share a little bit about that at the end. But we're going to start with a clip from Gretchen, episode 11, where she talks about how she and her husband Sam work together in the delivery room, and she shares about an expectation she had for him that he did not meet. And I have to admit, I'm kind of with him on this one. Take a listen.
We yeah, because I mean, me and my husband and I, we shine in the delivery room. Like, nurses were like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "I know, right?" Like, we had no idea that it was in us and that was, like, one of our places, which is why I kept being like, "Are we done?" And he's like, "Gretchen, we cannot keep just having babies for, singular moments around
Right, for those
delivery."
4 hours
Yeah.
when we're done.
It's just like, that's not wise. This is funny. I know you said it's not a birth story, but this is hilarious. Well, I thought it was. So my husband was in school and he had a career fair the day before Naomi was born, or the day after Naomi was born. And I was helping him kind of prep and get ready for it. So I was like researching some of the companies and like writing him like little notes on like a Google Doc or whatever. And
Mhm.
my back started hurting. I was like, so weird. And so I kneeled against the side of our bed. And every time my back hurt, I kind of dropped to all fours to
Mm.
like relieve the pressure off my back because I just thought
Yeah,
my belly's so big, and did that for like over an hour. And that was labor.
right.
Who knew?
Yeah,
Who knew?
right,
Which kinda lets you know a little bit about my pain tolerance, you know what I'm
right,
saying?
right,
'Cause I'm just like, "Do, do, 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 ow, let me get on my" whatever. And
right.
so I went to the kitchen and my water broke, but I wasn't
Mm.
sure, and so I woke my husband up, and I was just like, "Hey, either my water broke or I peed on myself." And he's just
Mhm.
like, "Cool, cool, cool." And I was like, "I need you to go smell it and see what's up." And he's like, "I'm not gonna do that." And I was just like, "Dude, you never do anything."
On episode 9, my friend Sarah described needing to be hospitalized because she had a lung biopsy. And this little story she told wasn't really about her husband, the father of her 4 children. I think he was father to um, one or two at this point. I'm not quite remembering right now as I'm recording this, but it shows the quiet work that partners, fathers often do, the non-birthing parent often does during this postpartum time. That's so important for both mom and baby to be able to settle into their new role.
When he was 4 weeks old, I was having some health issues and I had to have a lung biopsy.
Mm.
And it was supposed to be only a couple days that I was in the hospital, but I was in the hospital for a week. And I had an industrial pump that the hospital provided that just stayed right in my room. And
Mm.
I was not in any sort of prenatal area for my stay, but they were great about it. You know, they would come and take my milk, and they had a special fridge they put it in so my husband could come and get it.
Wow.
Um, my son did have formula for the very first little bit that I was in the hospital because he was born. And then when he was 2 weeks old, we went to Florida and then we came home and I had my lung biopsy the next day. So I just didn't have time to
Yeah,
build up a supply for him to have milk at home when I went into the hospital.
yeah.
Um, so he had formula and we had tried to give him formula before I went in when we were in Florida to get him ready, and he adamantly refused it. He would not drink it. But I said to my husband, well, he's gonna have to when I'm not there. And he did. He was fine with it. And he was fine with the bottle. And then after I was there for a little bit, like I said, my husband would come every day and get all the milk, and he had just breast milk.
In episode 11, I had a conversation with Elle who described what it was like to give birth prematurely and have a baby who ended up in the NICU for about 4 weeks. And in this little clip of my conversation with her, she described the ways that her husband was able to provide support, those really practical things that a father does in those early postpartum days that can be so helpful to both the baby and to the mom. I know the person who isn't breastfeeding often feels like th they want more to do, and she gives such, good advice about many of the things that he did, to help support her. But even more importantly, she talks about the toll that having a baby in the NICU took on his health, on his mental health, which, we talk about mental health and postpartum anxiety in the mother, but I think it's really important to address the impact that that has on fathers. And so I so appreciated Elle bringing this up in this conversation. That's
It's
really fascinating.
yeah, it's hard to kind of just enjoy the moment, but also then be like, okay, I've gotta write down this, I've got to inform that. And then you have a lot of interruptions of because
Mhm.
they kind of I think they take blood at like at least every single day. It might have been more than that to check certain levels.
Mm,
They're very baby oriented and like very I guess concerned about, about everything
mhm,
going on with an early baby. It's probably, it's probably stuff that's already been
mhm.
written and said that it has to be done, that they're just systems that they stick to. But it's interruptive
Yeah,
and a lot of, again, a lot of work, and you're already super tired and you're already not sleeping, and then, combine that with the fact that they don't provide a bed for, mothers who have early babies and facilities and so
right,
on. You end up with like a lot of things that you're
right.
trying to deal with and work out. So a
Mhm.
lot of stuff to kind of juggle.
Yeah, but by the time you were home, you mentioned that your husband, oh, he would know exactly how long we were there. So was he better at helping you track some of these things you were being asked to track? Was he, um, because you're doing all this work with breastfeeding, was that one of the ways that he was able to be supportive? Was kind of helping you monitor some of these things you were being asked to monitor?
For sure, he was really hands-on, so he liked to do a lot of that. He liked to, help keep track and write things down, a lot of the diaper changes. I think it was very stressful to him, and he felt really sensitive about, the baby and them being small, and he was very, like, concerned with getting home. He really didn't wanna be there at all, and so that was a big thing where he would ask
Mhm.
frequently, what would it take to leave? What would it take to go home? Because he didn't think it was a very,
Mhm.
like, healthy environment, and that, like they're, again, focused on the baby and doing good things for them, not so much that, but um that, that once they seem kind of healthy, it's like, well, can we go yet? Is this okay? They also do things like they have to do a certain test with a car seat. I think they do it at regular, with regular weighted babies too, and they have to
Yeah.
be in a car seat for a whole but it doesn't work out as well with an early baby. They fail the test a lot. So
Mhm.
I think, they had done a
Mm.
few of those and they failed, and so they won't let you leave even if other things are going well. And again, it's a precaution because they don't want, I
Oh
think, a
my
type of
good.
apnea and breathing to occur. But I remember that he is super helpful, but I do remember he was also, it was taking a mental toll on him, and he really wanted to go home, and he really felt sensitive. It's a sensitive environment, you know, not even just for your baby, but
Mhm.
if you hear a call or something go over on the intercom, for intervention for a baby,
Yeah.
it can be a stressful environment. You see other parents and stuff, and that kind of thing. So very, very
Yeah.
helpful and very supportive. But I remember how, like, it was emotionally charged too, and tiring. And he mostly stayed with me too. I stayed at the hospital the whole time, even though there wasn't a place to room, because I wanted to be there. And he stayed at the main hospital with me the whole time. And then when we transferred to the smaller hospital that was near our home, he left, but I was then able to room and stayed the rest of the duration.
In episode 12, Carrie describes what a father does that we often don't notice when we're in that postpartum fog, or we notice because we're asking it to be done or we're directing it. Once we've already had one child and then we welcome another child into the world, because now that father's pulling double duty often. She gives such a good description and paints such a beautiful picture of what her partner's life was like during those early postpartum days when she was in the hospital for a second C-section after giving birth to her second child. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and so my poor partner, he would he'd be with us all night and then go pick up. My mother was staying with the toddler, the 2-year-old, almost 2-year-old, and overnight, and he would go get her ready, take her to her daycare provider, and then I think he had to work, and then go pick her up and bring her to the hospital. My mother would come meet us, and then he would take them home, make them all dinner, settle her into bed. My mother would stay with the baby for the night, and then he'd come back to the hospital to take care of me and the newborn overnight.
Finally, my sister shared this little story about my own dad, which I was not surprised to hear, but also just caused us both to giggle, not because we were making fun of my dad, not at all, but because this is just so like him to hear a need and to just immediately run off and take care of it. And that even when it came to buying his daughter a breast pump, which, so many people might feel hesitant to do, just ran off and did it because he cared so much about his daughter and about his brand new granddaughter that he was so excited to meet. And so we were just chuckling at the thought of him being at Babies R Us talking to whoever ran the department that sold breast pumps about what the options were and what he should be getting. Although he might have gone with a name brand in mind, but still we were having fun imagining that image. So take a listen to this story. And then at the end, you'll hear me say that I wish that I should have my dad on the podcast. And so I went ahead and called him up to see if he remembered this. And you'll hear what he has to say about it. When were you planning to go back to work?
I was going to take the full 12 weeks off.
Okay, so you were going to take the quote unquote full 12 weeks,
Yeah.
which,
Yes.
a 12-week baby is so tiny.
Yes.
But that's what we get. You're going to take the full 12 weeks off, but in your mind, you needed to start pumping on day
Like day
2.
2. Yes.
Yeah.
And consequently, our dad, who loves to be helpful, ran out the minute that the nurse suggested a pump and came back like 2 hours later with a breast pump. I have no idea what this man said to these people at Bye Bye Baby or where Babies R Us. I think you got it. The very one that she suggested.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it was very awkward. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
Only the best for his grandbaby.
Dad running out and buying a breast pump. Oh, I need to have him on the podcast just to ask about him buying a breast pump for you.
Yes, it was quite humorous.
All right, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
Amy told me a story about how she started pumping like right away after she gave birth to Michaela. And she said that she was in the hospital. It was day 2, and the nurse told her which would be the best pump to get, and that you immediately ran out as the nurse was talking and ran somewhere and bought the breast pump. Do you have a memory of this?
I do not.
You don't?
No.
She said the nurse was telling her which breast pump to get. It was the Medela, this old Medela that they used to hand out.
Yeah.
Actually, they I guess at that time she didn't have, her insurance didn't cover the breast pumps. They used to hand them out. Like by the time I had Charlie, my insurance covered it, and the hospital had, they would supply it through your insurance at the hospital. But I guess her hospital wasn't checking for insurance coverage, or maybe her insurance didn't cover it. I'm not sure. But so she said you ran out and you bought the exact breast pump the nurse was describing and brought it to Amy. So we were kind of chuckling about what this experience was like for you to run out, first time grandfather, and have a conversation with somebody about breast pumps at whatever store you went to. So we were trying to determine we didn't talk about it that long. We talked about it about 10 seconds, but where did you go? What was this conversation like? You don't have any memory of this?
No memory. That was when Michaela was born.
Yes,
when
Michaela was born.
Over 14 years ago.
I know. And she used that same breast pump for all 3 of the babies that she fed with that pump.
And she said, I remember being anxious, waiting for the baby to come.
So after hearing this story about my dad rushing off to buy a breast pump, I think you will understand the meaning of this song called Strong Roots. There's a website called songfinch.com, and the song was written by Jeff Coleman. I selected that artist. They are not a sponsor of my podcast. This is something I really did do for my dad for Father's Day this year. And the song illustrates how loving and generous and giving my dad is all the time. And I was able to talk about my dad. And then they completed a song for him. Jeff Coleman wrote a song based on me talking about my dad and saying what I wanted to say about him, and then they turned it into a beautiful song, which I could not have done myself. I know that Father's Day can be complicated for people whose fathers aren't around, or have complicated relationships with their fathers, or who are single parents. And so I just want to acknowledge that as well, that these holidays can sometimes be a little bit bittersweet. But I do want to recognize all those fathers that are working so hard to provide for their families and be good support systems for their families. So happy Father's Day.
A father's love beyond compare. He does all that he can. He cares deeply for his family. A true and rare self-made man, the greatest father ever known, the best papa to his grandkids, a stranger to no one. Every day he gives and gives. You are full of adventure. You are patient and kind. You are generous and selfless. You always provide. You've taught us all well. Your strength helps us through. We couldn't do it without you. You are the strong roots. Throwing us in the pool or high in the sky. You are my true hero. My father, the jet pilot, never afraid to take risks, not afraid to let us be kids. You always bring the fun. We love you to no end. You are full of adventure. You are patient and kind. You are generous and selfless. You always provide. You've taught us all well. Your strength helps us through. We couldn't do it without you. You are the strong roots. You are full of adventure. You are patient and kind. You are generous and selfless. You always provide. You've taught us all well. Your strength helps us through. We couldn't do it without you. You are the strong